Hello students, Maureen Curry back again. Just want to do a little short recording to prepare you for Module 8, which is coming up this week. We're going to look at Renaissance architecture, particularly in Italy, and then in Spain and England and France. Before we begin, I want to say thank you for the Gothic Cathedrals audio videos you did. They're great. They really are. I'm still grading them. So we learned a lot. It's so fun to look at different Gothic buildings, castles, churches, different structures from the Gothic period. But this week we're going to move on to the Renaissance period. So I want you to notice the pages that will cover Renaissance in Italy, Spain, France, and England. I also want to point out that there is going to be a discussion board on a peer review of your museum research papers. I hope you've been working on those and you have an outline, sort of a plan where you're going, so you can share this week on the discussion board with your classmates and get input on what they think about your thesis, your plans for research, what you found so far, their ideas they can share. They can learn from you too, so please be prepared for that. There's a second discussion board on chateau decoration and a written assignment due Saturday night. So for this week, just remember we're going to be working on the Renaissance. So do notice that compared to the Gothic, Renaissance architecture is going to be more ordered, more harmonic, more balanced. There's going to be a use of rounded arches, as we saw from the Roman period, stone facades, rusticated stone in particular, and in the palazzos, dome-covered spaces. You'll see that in the plans, particularly the cruciform plans of the church with a large dome at the crossing between the nave and the transepts. And that center circle there is the crossing of the dome over the crossing point of the nave and the transepts. And you have the apse back here as well. So be on the lookout for those rounded arches, a lot of classical elements like a pediment, flattened pilasters. Basically, the Renaissance starts in northern Italy, where the cities were growing, cultural development was expanding. At this time, the thinking was about humanism, where man was the center of all things. So focusing on man in art and architecture. You're going to see a lot more architecture designed for a space for people. When we take a look at the Spanish Renaissance, we're going to see the influence of classical motifs, but the Spanish Renaissance will be a little bit different. It'll be a little more lavish detail, more overall surface design, influence from the Moors, still a lot of what do you want to say, sort of perpendicular, a lot of verticality, still like the Gothic, but it's a mixture of Moorish, Gothic, and Renaissance and classical motifs, so you'll be seeing that. You also want to notice the Plateresque style, which is sort of a very ornate, almost looks like hammered silver on the facades. Here's some more examples of the blend of Moorish, Gothic, and Renaissance in Spain during the Renaissance period. If you go to San Diego Balboa Park, you'll also see examples of the Plateresque trim, as we see in this picture here. And this, of course, is in Spain itself. So there's still Italian influence, but the Spanish Renaissance has its own articulation, a little bit more ornate. Still symmetry, order, balance, harmony in a lot of the churches and buildings. But they are typical, have their own uniqueness with their detailing. And for the French Renaissance, you will see that it's a little bit different than the Italian Renaissance. Certainly focusing on the humanist idea. You're going to see more or less chateaus in France, influenced by the French monarchy. Taste for different, more ornate interior decorations. This happens to be the chateau given to Leonardo da Vinci at the last years of his life. He went to live with King Francis I over in France, gave him a home, and he brought the Mona Lisa with him and kept it late in his life in this particular chateau. So this is a little bit of the interior of where Da Vinci lived. You can see the very heavy fireplace surround, open beam ceilings, a different heavy Renaissance furniture. This is not a very good slide to show you, sorry. But the French Renaissance is still very much Gothic in its ornamentation and its verticality. So you can see this in the Parliament building of Rouen. In French Renaissance, we're going to look more at the chateaus, the wonderful residences that were built in the Renaissance period. Very much still classic, castle-like and classical elements. So there was turrets, flattened arches, but just lovely interiors. So I think you'll enjoy learning about the French Renaissance. So do be sure to read all the pages, Canvas, the introduction to the Renaissance, the different Renaissance characteristics and motifs, looking at the palazzos in Italy in particular, churches and public buildings. In the Spanish Renaissance, you'll see how they're very unique in their own right. The French Renaissance is more chateaus. And the English Renaissance, I didn't really hit on that just in this video, but be prepared to complete the readings and cover the pages in Canvas and review the videos. You'll get a good background on Renaissance art, architecture, and interior design. Be sure to read over the rubric for the museum research paper and come up with an outline or some kind of plan that you can explain to the rest of the class on the discussion board assignment this week. What your direction of your paper is going to be. Hopefully you'll have an outline, maybe a title for your paper we can comment on, even a potential thesis, or even some research you found. If you've started writing and you have paragraphs, please put that up. You'll get a good critique. There's a second discussion board on chateau decoration, and then a written assignment due. That's sort of our typical format. So I wish you all the best for week 8 in the Renaissance, and we will see you on Canvas this week. Take care, everybody.